Hello everyone and welcome to the class. Today we will start the chapter thermodynamics. Now before going into all the theories of the from this chapter, we need to study first few terminology from this chapter. This terminology will help us in understanding the theory of this chapter. The first terminology is that we are going to study is the thermodynamics itself. Now we already had discussed in our previous classes about the different forms of energy. Now there are nuclear energy, electronic energy, electrical energy, heat energy, sound energy, light energy. There are different forms of energy that exist in the universe. One form energy transformed to the other form of energy and vice versa. Now these all theory we already had studied. In this chapter we will specifically will study the interconvertibility between the heat energy and work energy. Now heat energy is a form of energy which is associated with when a temperature change is occurring in a substance in a body. Work energy is the form of energy which associate when some amount of work is occurring and that amount of energy is required or being released by the substance, by the system, by the body due to that work. Now the when this interconvertibility is occurring specifically between heat energy and work energy, the theory regarding this specific interconvertibility we are going to study that in thermodynamics. Thermodynamics is a experimental subject. We need to do experimental observation to study the transformation or interconversion between the heat energy and work energy during a chemical reaction. That's why this is called a chemical thermodynamics. During a chemical transformation, physical transformation also, the interconversion between heat energy and work energy, we are going to study that. Now as this is the observable science, we do need to do some experimental observation to study these topics. Now any system or part portion in the universe which is under our observation, under our experimental observation, is known as the system. Now why it is required? Because when we are doing an observation to a particular system, like suppose we are going to observe this beaker filled with this liquid. This may be water, oil, benzene, whatever. Some amount of liquid is taken in this beaker and we are going to observe this liquid and some property of this liquid. Now as we are doing an experimental observation, the entire universe is not our main criteria. The amount of the liquid inside this beaker and the beaker maybe is our main concern. So the our main system is the experimental observation. The main system for the experimental observation is only confined between this. So this is the first terminology that we need to learn, that we are not going to concern ourselves with the entire universe. In fact, we are only going to concern ourselves with the with the portion or the part of the universe which is under our experimental observation, under our study, and that part of the universe is known as the system. So what is the rest of the universe known? The rest of the universe is known as the surroundings. That is, apart from the system which is under observation, everything else in the universe is known as the surroundings. Now surroundings do do have an influence over the observation, would have a influence over the system that is under observation, because we are doing the interconversion of energy. Surroundings mm, very easily can influence our observation of the system that we are observing. That's why it has been found that the surroundings by definition may be the entire universe except the surroundings, except the system. But in fact it has been found that system has a very influence, the system that is under observation have an influence with its immediate surroundings, not entire, not entire universe. That's why by definition the surroundings of an observable system means entire universe except that system, but in real the surroundings means that the immediate atmosphere, the immediate environment of the system that is under observation. Now the universe by the thermodynamic definition means that the entire system, the entire portion on which conclude the system and the surroundings, this entire thing is known as the universe. So universe is the entire thing. Amount in this entire portion, a specific part or portion is under observation. That portion is our main concern. That portion is known as system, and the immediate environment, immediate surroundings of that system is known as the surroundings of the system. Now what is the boundary? Boundary is the barrier that separates the system with its surroundings. It may be real, it may be imaginary. Like in this case, this boundary is going to be the glass which is separating this liquid that is under observation with with its surroundings. Or supposedly an O2 gas is present in our surroundings and I'm only going to observe this O2 gas content. So our main system is the O2 gas content in our vicinity. But what is the surroundings? The surroundings is going to be the this vicinity in which the O2 gas is here and we're observing, and the immediate vicinity surrounding us is our surroundings. So this is the system and this is the surroundings. It has no real boundary. We are going to have an imaginary boundary. When I'm saying this is the vicinity, I'm creating an imaginary boundary between our between our observable portion that we are observing, that we're studying, and between this and between the surroundings that we're not studying. So boundary is the portion, real or maybe imaginary, which separates the system from its immediate surroundings. We just studied about the definition of boundary, and we just studied that it can be real or imaginary depending on the observation or the experimental observation that we're doing. Now real boundary can be of different types, mainly four types. Number one is permeable boundary, means a real boundary which permits the exchange of matter between the system and the surroundings. That boundary is known as permeable boundary. The next one is the impermeable boundary. On contrary to permeable boundary, impermeable boundary do not exchange matters between the system and the do not allow the exchange of matter between the system and the surroundings. Diathermal boundary allows the exchange of heat energy between the system and the surroundings. On the contrary to diathermal energy, adiabatic boundary do not allow the exchange of heat energy between the system and the surroundings. So these are four different types of boundary. Now depending on what type of boundary we are implying on the observable system, between the observable system and the surroundings, we will get the depending on that we will get our observation. Like if we use adiabatic boundary, obviously we will not have any influence from the surroundings on into our system with regards to heat energy, because heat energy is not allowed through the adiabatic boundary between the system and the surroundings. Similarly, if we use permeable boundary for the same observable system, in that case we will see that exchange of energy, exchange of matter is occurring, and we will see according to that exchange we will see our observation. So depending on what type of boundary we are taking and what different types of boundary allow or do not allow, it is very much important to know. The second thing that we are going to study, the types of energy system. Now systems also can be of different types, mainly five types of system that we are going to study in this chapter. The first one is the most easy one, the open system, like the O2 example that I was talking about. Open system allow the exchange of matters and heat energy. Now matter mean what? the system that we are observing. Specifically in chemistry, chemical thermodynamics, we talk about the chemical observation. That is the some amount of material we had taken, and we are observing some parameters of that matter. If we are taking or if we are observing this phenomena in an open system, in that case the amount of the material that we had taken, the open system is allowing that observation for an exchange between the system and surrounding, an exchange of heat energy and also the matter energy. So depending on this system, we will get our observation. Closed systems are those systems which do not allow the exchange of matter but do allow the exchange of heat. Isolated system is the that specific type of system which completely do not allow the exchange of heat or matter at all. So isolated system mean by the name, it actually means that it is entirely, the observable system is entirely isolated from the entire universe. Now, last two is the homogeneous system and heterogeneous system. Homogeneous system depend on the parameters that we are observing in a system. If the physical and chemical properties in a system throughout the system is same, remain same, that system we will say that it is an homogeneous system. If the physical and chemical parameter, any one of the physical or chemical parameters is found to be different at different part in the system, then we will say that the system is heterogeneous. Like supposedly we are observing glucose water. When we add glucose in water and we did not stir it, we will try to taste it, we will see that at the initial part the sweetness of the glucose is a little less, but at the end part it is very much sweet. The solution is very much sweet. But instead of that, if we stir up very well and make a mixture of glucose water, in that case we will taste it. Initially we will taste sweetness in same extent, and at the end we will taste at same extent. So in later case we had created a homogeneous system. So that is the homogeneous system and heterogeneous system means. Now depending on this terminology that we had just studied, we will further study the thermodynamic properties. A system which comprises large number of huge amount of constituent ions particles, then that system is observable throughout naked eyes. That type of system is known as macroscopic system, and the properties that define or state that system known as macroscopic properties. Now most of the macroscopic properties, the common macroscopic property that define a system are the temperature, volume, pressure, internal energy, mass, these type of energies, these type of properties. Now depending on whether that property depends on the constituent particle or not, these macroscopic properties has been classified into two category. The first category is the extensive property. Extensive property are those macroscopic property which do not depend on the amount of the particle, amount of the constituent amount of the constituent particle of the system, like the volume that depends on the amount matter, that depends on the constituent matter of the system. That those type of properties are known as extensive property, like volume. If you take a certain amount of O2 gas in a container and then you try to observe that O2 gas in the container, then our system is that O2 gas in the container. Now the volume of that O2 gas is going to be the volume of the container. If you reduce the amount of the O2 gas and place that in a very smaller amount of container, then the volume will be reduced. So the volume depends on the amount of the constituent particle. The similar way, if you take a few amount of calcium carbonate, certain amount of calcium carbonate, it will give a certain amount of volume, it will occupy a certain amount of volume, then you can observe it. But if you take half of that calcium carbonate and study that same type of chemical transformation, in that case the volume of the calcium carbonate will be different. So the volume is actually depends on the amount of the constant particle in the system. That's why volume is an extensive property. So extensive property are those macroscopic property which depends on the amount of the constituent particle present in the system. On the contrary to this extensive property, intensive properties of those macroscopic properties which do not depends on the amount of the matter in the system, like temperature, pressure. If a certain amount of gas under observation have 25 degrees Celsius temperature, the amount of the gas taken in any portion of that system will have the temperature 25 degrees Celsius. So temperature is going to be same throughout the system, irrespective of the amount of the amount of the matter present in the portion of the system. So temperature, similar cases the pressures, because pressure is the amount of the force applied per unit area. So pressure, temperature, these are the intensive property, do not depend on the amount of the matter present in the system. But volume is an extensive property, it depends on the amount of the matter present in the system. There are lots of other macroscopic properties, and depending on these two basic definition, those can also be classified classified into either extensive property or in intensive property. But those macroscopic property, these three macroscopic property is very well known to us. That's why we are taking the example of these three. Otherwise there are lots of other macroscopic particle, like if I have to take the example of internal energy. Internal energy is an extensive property, it depends on the amount of matter present in the system. Internal energy is the energy of the system. If you take a bulk huge amount of system which comprises huge amount of constant particle, the total amount of energy of the system, of that matter, of that huge amount of constant particle will be extremely high. But if you take the half amount of that matter, the energy will be reduced. So internal energy is an extensive property, depends on the amount of the matter in the system. On the contrary to that, surface tension do not depend on the amount of the amount of the matter in the system. It's same for throughout the system, so it is an intensive property. So there are macroscopic properties that can be classified depending on these two definition.